Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sultans of Swap. I'm gonna keep saying it slow, but we're on Facebook, Twitter. Where else are we, Edwin?
We're everywhere, man. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google Plus,
Google Plus. How do you
Vimeo.
set up an Instagram account? Or should we have an Instagram account? I don't know. Everyone seems to have one.
We could definitely post some of John's monster cards on there for sure.
We could, and the other one, we have to do Pinterest, dude. My wife freaking loves Pinterest. It's the bane of my. I don't know what we put on there. Like, I don't know how it would fit in the Pinterest universe. John, I know your wife is on Pinterest, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What does she do? Does she do knick-knacky thing? I mean, I'm not judging. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I just get told, here, make this. I found it on Pinterest. Okay.
Pinterest is like the Call of Duty for women.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. It's a great analogy.
I don't know, man. How do we explain that one? But anyway, guys, thanks for checking us out. However you got a hold of us, I really appreciate it. You find it tonight. We wanted to talk about opening up our own card shop, and this started off a conversation on Facebook. It went a lot of different directions, but I think the consensus was it's really, really, really hard. And I could talk about it forever, but John, since you're in the business, I think you're probably the one to start with. Like, what are the pitfalls of opening up your own card shop?
That might take an hour.
Well, that's good. We have some time.
No, it would be totally out of the question for me. I'm 100% against it. There's just, my opinion, there's not enough retail collectors out there. There's not every, the vast majority of people that I come across, they're buying to try and resell. So when you're selling, when you're basically opening a business to wholesale and your market is limited, in other words, there's not enough people that you could wholesale to outside of eBay to make it worthwhile, to make it worth the overhead. No one wants to pay over eBay. So, what do you have to sell at? How much volume do you have to do just to pay your bills, let alone put any money in your pocket?
So you're already don't consider it because of how difficult it is. But what I want to ask Edwin real quick: have you ever dreamed about opening up your own hobby shop, man? Have you thought about it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think most collectors kind of have that thought process. I mean, they say, oh, that'd be cool. I mean, it's like anything else, I don't know. I learned early on that hobbies that turn into work sometimes take the fun out of the hobby in a way. I mean, you got to really love it sometimes to do it all the time. But nonetheless, I mean, I think everybody dreams about opening a shop up and whatnot. But I think when you really sit down and look at it, it's just it seems like the odds are against you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I talk to my wife about it once a week, at least about I'm gonna do it. Not if not in any real terms whatsoever. Like I said earlier, I talk about it like I talk about winning the lottery. And John, I have talked to you about this a lot. And you already covered some of the market limitations, those kind of things, but when you have to admit there are some people who are successful at doing this. So what makes them successful?
I think they're a major anomaly. I think they have either like the guy where you go and check out his store. I think the hobby store that he owns is just a place for him to do business outside of his auction house. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the auction house, I don't think he would own a card store. Card stores are closing so rapidly. Some of the most successful in the country, ones that have been around for 30 and 40 years, are closing. It's particularly where we live, Brian. The Northeast is the most cutthroat region imaginable. They would sell their brother or sister if they could to help pay the bills. So
would I, though. So this is why it's interesting to me.
There you go. So. Yeah, please, if you could. Yeah, it's not a good venture to get into. There's not enough retail customers. The wax business, unless you're doing group breaks like I do, there's just not. People just don't have hundreds and hundreds of dollars to spend on boxes on every single product.
Right.
The group breaks make it affordable for people that want to collect a certain team or player, and it's terrific. But I obviously don't need a card shop to do that. So,
Edwin, do you go anywhere in Florida? Like, is there like an LCS you check out? Because I know you do a ton online.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're an online guy, a computer guy, so it probably fits your interest more than anything. But do you have an LCS you check out down there?
I mean, when I go to different locations and I travel, always try to go find a LCS and go check them out because I love just digging through somebody's cards and finding those cards that I really like. But I really haven't found anything that I would call my LCS in my local area. So I'm pretty much left with retail options like everybody else is. So that's why I tend to go online. I mean, I can still get a good deal online, from these virtual locations and whatnot. I think, when you have that brick and mortar kind of store, there's an extra overhead of expenses that you're going to have to pay. Unless you just have some, some place. I mean, they got the rent, they got to cut all the lights, they got to pay the people, and so, how does that factor in to, what they sell? So if you're doing more of a virtual business, where you don't have a lot of that overhead, I think they can pass that cost savings on a little bit, and it probably makes it really, really tough, for those local card stores, because then you have these folks online. I mean, as John mentioned, I mean, why would you go into your LCS and buy, something for $50 extra than you could just get shipped to your door online, other than just, wanting to, to support the local guy,
Well, it's funny, the conversation on Facebook was basically the guy said, how cool would it be to open your own hobby store? And, of course, early on, LCS owner got in there, and he posted a card of a guy, and he said, hey, I'm selling this for $90, and book value is $150. And as soon as he said that, I was like, this guy is going to fail, man. So I wasn't being a dick, but I pulled up all the eBay auctions, and they were available for $65. The exact same card that he was selling for $90 was available repeatedly on eBay for $65. So I asked him, I felt innocently, just the question, why would I give you $90 and when I could get it for $65? And his answer, Edwin, was exactly what you just said. I got to pay to keep the lights on. I got to pay for the electrical. I got to pay for that. And as John mentioned, I'm a little bit cutthroat. I'm also a little bit of a prick. My next question was, I don't care. Like, as the consumer, how does that apply to me? Like, why do I care that you need to keep your light? And there's a part of me that gets that. There's also the business part of me that says, like, those are the obstacles. Well, like, in your model as a business owner, if you're going to open up an LCS, like, you have to factor that competition into your business.
Well, and I think what you find is a lot of folks hitting the middle ground too. Instead of doing the brick and mortar, they'll do shows. You know what I mean? And so they can hit a show. They can bring a lot of their product inventory, and they're only paying whatever the fees are for them to show, and then they're hitting a big audience all at once.
Right.
And then the online storage and whatnot. But, to be honest with you, I mean, I think a lot of these folks that are successful at it have another in. You know what I mean? Like, they already had the space. It happens to be their warehouse. They got a storefront. It's kind of... it's not their money maker, if you know what I mean.
Right. So let's do this. John, this would be your area of expertise. If I was going to open up a card shop, let's say I've done my research. I got a high foot traffic area. There's a local sports team in my area. I can get a place at a reasonable price, whatever that is. We'll just use generic figures, whatever that might be. So I have, a semi-market in place set up in the town that I'm in. So that's good. Like, you're in Philly, so you got the Sixers, the Eagles, the Flyers. Wow, a lot of bad teams. Anyway, so you have all these teams. So you have a market there. You're going to get some walk-ins. You're going to get this. If you were starting from scratch, how would you start that business?
Oh, man. I guess you would just open your doors and fill it with inventory, and it's not one of those things like back in 1990 when we were kids, and you open the phone book and you go under the yellow pages or the white pages and you look for baseball card stores, and there's 2 pages full of them.
Right.
It's just not like that anymore. So I would literally put product on the shelves, put whatever inventory I had in there, and people come and find you. It's not one of those things where you can advertise. I mean, Brian, think about it. You live in the Baltimore area. Do you know more than 15 people that collect cards in the Baltimore area? No,
yes, but through Facebook.
Okay, but personally, in the Baltimore area, within 15 minutes of you, do you know 10 people that buy cards personally?
Yeah, but dude, I think I'm a little bit different, being how involved I've been for the last 2 years.
If you took Facebook out of the equation, would you know 10 people?
No.
Okay, so there you go. There's my exact point. A guy who loves the Pirates, who loves the Steelers, who loves cards, who loves being in the mix, who goes to shows, doesn't know 10 people outside of Facebook that collect cards in his area. How would you propose a store would succeed in your area?
I think if again, because I have given this a lot of thought, I think the one thing I would do is I would diversify. And when I say diversify, I don't just mean in avenues of sale, like Facebook, eBay, auctions, shows, that type of thing. I also mean in the type of product I would offer. I think that would be extremely important. Doing the Magic the Gathering, doing the Yu-Gi-Oh, doing the Pokemon, dude, I hate wrestling so much. Like a bunch of dudes with their shirts off rolling around on the ground doing fake stories. Like, it is the most... It's dumb. Anyway, so now I've offended all the wrestling people. I'm sorry if you like it, but it's stupid. Anyway, but I would sell wrestling if I had to like run my business, because I know there's a market for people who like wrestling stuff.
Okay,
the
well,
other one is the walking...
Here's my next question for you. Let me interject for a second. Two things. I know where you're going. Your next line is The Walking Dead. So let me start here. Number one, I know the answer to this question. You know nothing about non-sport cards. You're going to have to pay someone to manage and run the non-sport part of that store.
That's a good point, and I actually thought about that too. But that's another layer of overhead. Like, that's another expense. You're right. I would need someone who knows about it to do it.
So then, hang on, I'm not finished. You would also need to find. It's difficult to get that type of product. That product is not readily available just for anyone.
Oh, wow, okay.
So not only would you have to pay someone to run that part of your business, now you're battling and scraping and clawing to get the right amount of product. Not to mention, you're also going to be competing with non-sport stores like the one that opened up in the mall that's been opened up now for 6 months near my house, and all they sell are non-sport comics, Magic. They have tournaments. They have T-shirts. So it's just another layer. It's like when you go into, you're not going into your local like Foot Locker. Like when you go to buy a pair of sneakers, you're not going into Foot Locker for the hat. You're going in there to buy a pair of sneakers. My point is, you would be such a secondary. You'd be so far down the bottom of the list. Anyone coming to you to buy that type of stuff, it's only because the product has gotten so hot they can't get it anywhere else, and they're probably not going to be long-term customers.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I think you're spot on, and that's another factor to consider. I am making it a little bit local. I know people listen from everywhere, but where I am in particular, I'm sandwiched in between Loudoun County and Montgomery County, so two of the highest per capita income areas in the country. About 45 minutes from D.C., about 45 minutes from Baltimore. People do have extra income. The housing market is insane. So there are positives to doing a traditional brick-and-mortar store in this type of area. The thing that kind of keeps me against it is I just don't see any, which I can't decide if that's like a positive or a negative, because there really isn't a card shop where I live of any kind. You have to go in towards the D.C., or Baltimore to really find what you would consider a traditional LCS. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that one, if that's a positive or negative, because that either means that people have tried and they failed, or people like me have done the research and decided it's not worth it.
Okay, so
both of those are negative.
I think John brought up a good point earlier. I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you would have opened up that phone book and there would have been a ton of them. I mean, you could have rode your bike to probably 4 of them, as a kid.
I did. We all did, I think.
And that's just a shame. I mean, it's just I think the accessibility, of the internet nowadays has killed the LCS.
Dude,
Listen,
I sold cards this weekend, and I was debating whether or not to like take them to the post office. And I was like, why would I go to the post office? I just printed the postage, and I'm going to stick them in the mailbox. I mean, so there you go. Like, I only say that to say, like, I didn't even want to leave my house to like go to the post office because I was like,
so here's
why would I do that?
people tell me that I'm crazy, and they say, "Oh no, you're wrong. You're so wrong." I want to touch on a few points. The first is you talked about the average income in the area that you live in, and it's a more affluent area.
Right.
Okay. You also stated earlier when you were talking to this gentleman about 65 and 90. Why would I pay 90 when I could buy it for 65?
Right.
So what are the other like-minded people that live in these two wealthy counties going to say when they come into your store and they say, but Brian, it's 65 on eBay. Why should I pay you 75? In fact, I want to pay you 60 because you're saving the eBay fees.
Can I answer that? I can
Sure.
answer that question.
Sure.
I really think the key to doing that is a smaller margin and turning over more inventory. So it's kind of like the CarMax model, right? Like if you go to your traditional car dealership and they sell new cars, there is a markup. And even that has come down a lot because of internet and how competitive things are and all the Nissan dealerships within a certain area you can go to, whatever. But at the same time, they're putting a lot of profit, or they're going to make their money back on mechanics, all that different kind of stuff. But CarMax, man, CarMax makes like $500 per car, sometimes less. But what they're doing at CarMax is instead of selling, like at a car dealership, 2 cars a day, they're selling like 100 cars a day. And
But
they keep turning it over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
I think if I was selling cards, I think I would have to do the same thing. I think I would have to have a really small margin and just sell a lot of cards.
Automobiles are something that every single person on the planet needs, and as things financially get better, they can afford a better one or want a new one.
Yeah.
How many? So let's equate the margins. $500 on a $20,000 item. What's
very
that
small.
margin on a $20 item? I mean, what are you working on? 50 cents? How many $1 profits do you have to make to be able to, to feed little Bobby and Betty Sue and the little one that's on the way? It's an impossibility because these are impulse purchases. They're not things that anyone needs. They're things that just people want. Here's the other thing I'll say. So here's my point about where everybody's telling me I'm crazy. The hobby end of this, the hobby, in terms of modern cards, ended when eBay took off. Here's why. You guys are collectors, correct?
Yeah.
When you needed money or you wanted to sell your collection, there was one place you could go to. Not one place, one type of person.
Right.
And it was the card store or the local show. Correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Tons of stuff walking indoors that these guys, all the power was in their court because you couldn't sell it anywhere else. Now, if you're not lazy, you can sell it all yourself on eBay. There's another layer of margin that's taken out of the equation. So it's just like everyone is a dealer now. I mean, just everyone wants to make money. No one wants to pay eBay. So what do you have to buy stuff at if no one even wants to pay eBay?
Now, I deal with that a lot. I go to like local yard sales.
Yeah.
I do a lot on the local pages. And, I say, hey, I want baseball cards older than 1975. Send me a message, give me a call, send me pictures, whatever, I'll show up. I've been doing that for about 6 months. I've probably only made 3 deals. And, what you're saying I think is really true because one of the things people say to me all the time is, well, this is how much I'm going to get for it if I put it on eBay. And and the sales pitch I use on them is, well, you could do that, and then you're going to pay eBay fees, and you're going to have to take all the time, and you're going to have to do this and that and blah, 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 and whatever. And, sometimes that sales pitch works where they're like, yeah, you're right. If I just sell it to you, I just have cash in hand. I don't have to worry about going through all this stuff, and then I get into deals. And I'm able to buy them for about 50% of what I would get back for them on eBay, take out the fees, everything else. I get about 30%. If I tried to do that full time, like just buy stuff and then sell it myself on eBay, dude, I would be destitute in no time flat. Because, you are right about that. People, that's the first thing they say is, well, I could just sell it on eBay myself. Like, why would I sell it to you? So that point is well taken, man. I feel you there for sure.
It's just, it's a shame because before eBay, we had a real hobby. Before eBay, when people just went to shows, that's when people built sets. That's when I would collect Frank Thomas. Edwin collects Cal Ripken. Every time we're opening, the new Leaf Limited that we all had to save up for because it was the new brand, or the Score Select, and I pulled a Cal Ripken Starburst out of Select, and I thought it was, a really cool card. And I would trade it to Edwin and say, look, when you get a Frank Thomas card, trade it back to me. That's when it was a hobby. That's when it was really fun. Now, I can't tell you how many times I'm done breaking, I hate you, you suck, and their name is grayed out with a gray circle and a slash through it, meaning they left the group. And when I message them and they say, I can't take it anymore. Yeah, but you just bought your favorite team. You got a bunch of stuff for me. Yeah, but I can't keep losing money. There is no other hobby on the planet where people are worried about losing money. When you go fishing, you're not banging down the tackle store door and saying, hey, I didn't catch anything. I want a refund on my boat. Listen, I'm giving you these worms back. They didn't work.
Oh, dude, that might have been one of my favorite analogies you've ever given me, man. I think that the tackle box store, I didn't catch any fish.
Yes,
I
give
really
me
like
my
that
money
one,
back. If your thing is drinking alcohol, you don't bring the ticket for the DUI and slap it on the bar and say, you gave me a DUI. I'm done drinking. Pay this bill.
I don't like that one as much as the tackle box.
But it's true.
The tackle box one, use that one. The DUI one's kind of sad. The first one is kind of fun.
Okay, no, but that analogy is when I get the wife that messages me, why are you accepting my husband's payments? Why are you letting him open this? Wait a minute. This never happened before, man. When the area was full of card stores, everybody was happy. Card stores, think about it, man. How cool would it be to go to your card, like you get done a long week of work. You go to the card store on a Saturday morning. There's 10 guys there, and you're all just chopping it up, just like an escape from reality, having a good time. It doesn't happen anymore, man.
Oh, dude, but see, this is where I disagree, man. And I know I keep going back to this place that I go to locally, but what you're describing, I really do. I mean, I do that like once a week. Like I go in, and it's a bunch of guys, and we hang out, and we bullshit about cards. And sometimes I buy stuff, and sometimes I don't. I mean, the one thing I buy a lot of at the LCS is raw vintage, because raw vintage is really, really hard to buy online. Like, we've talked about this before. You have to trust someone implicitly when you're buying raw vintage. So for me to go to him and actually be able to see it, feel it, touch it, look at it, make my own assessment of the condition, and then have him sell it to me at an eBay price, I mean, I think that is the one spot. Like, you're talking about new cards, man, and I agree with you 100% on that. It's gambling. I mean, that's how it's set up. But for the older stuff, man, I feel like there's a lot of people that really collect vintage and like it and want to keep it. And, I feel like that's a pretty solid, investment opportunity too, given, all the things that come along with vintage. So that's why I feel in that market particularly that an LCS can still survive on vintage. I don't know if it can survive on vintage alone, but I think if you take cards, get them graded at PSA, SGC, wherever you get them graded, create that margin, that gap in price, and sell them that way, I got to tell you, man, I think you could run an LCS doing that. I'm not as dour on that aspect of the hobby as I think you are.
All right, well, then I'll pose this to you. So here's my counter to that. So where you go for your LCS, the Huggins and Scott store, do you know how many auction houses there are in and around the Philadelphia area? I can tell you, I've been to all of them, been on their facility. No one hangs out there. No one's going in there. It's like, do you want to walk through and look at the stuff so you can bid on the auction or not? That's it. So, and as far as the owning the store for vintage, it's like, do you know how many vintage cards you have to buy? I used to grade prospects all the time, man. And I have to believe that the margin on prospects in like '07 to 2010, during that area, the margin was so big. It was so astronomical if you hit a 9.5. The only way you get that margin on a vintage card is if you find somebody who has no clue what they have. They have really crisp cards, and you make a score. That's it. That's the only way. But buying, 100 count lots of 78 tops Eddie Murray. That's his rookie, right? 78 tops. I have to believe that's a losing proposition. Searching through them, getting them graded, because most times they're going to grade out to some average condition grade.
Yeah. 7s or 8s.
If you're lucky. And what do you have to buy that card for to sell it in a PSA 7 for you to make any money after eBay, PayPal, and PSA fees?
Now, and when you're hearing John and I go back and forth on that, where are you at, man?
No, I mean, I was picking up on how you like just going into the card store and shooting the shit. That's half of the reason why I seek out a lot of these card stores when I'm traveling around. I love just going in there and bullshitting with people and talking about cards and looking at what they got, and that's what draws us a lot of times to Facebook. To be honest with you, I just wish they served beer in card shops. I mean, come on now. I mean,
now there's an idea, man.
Once they do that, hey, people are gonna talk about people jumping in your brakes, John. Man, you get a little bar there, people are all over it.
I think he's onto something, dude. I think if you did a card shop / bar, now liquor licenses are really expensive. I don't know, they are. But I think if you could somehow get serving alcohol at your store in, I guarantee you the breaks, people wouldn't mind not hitting as much.
Yeah, you're damn right. Because they wouldn't know what cards are coming. They'd be too drunk.
I don't know, man. I think we might have just came up with a great idea.
Oh, my God.
On the show, man.
That's funny. But, yeah, man, it was a booming hobby and business at the same time. When people didn't care that a guy was able to earn a living because they just loved their hobby and they loved cards and they loved meeting other people and trading and chasing sets and stuff like that. I mean, think about it. You mentioned the vintage. It's a great area, okay? All the shows that you've been to, how many vintage dealers do you see that are ages 35 and under?
Not 35 and under. No. I would say...
How about 40 and under? What percent are they? It's a very nominal
percent. Small, maybe like 10 to 20%.
Okay. How many vintage customers do you see are under the age of 40?
Not a lot, man. Like I said, I think that's probably the 10 to 20% number.
Okay, so
it's small, man.
Right. So we're already in an environment that's got a shrinking customer base with more and more fish swimming in, trying to make headway. There's a new guy doing breaks every week. There's guys posting on Facebook, I'm hosting a break but not buying the product until the break is full and you pay me so I can buy it and put the money in my pocket first. It's like, so my point is there's so much competition. For younger people, you're not seeing any younger people. There are no younger people getting into it. How can a younger kid get into it? How can a 15-year-old get into an immaculate break?
Their parents. It's the only way.
Right, exactly, and they're just not interested in it. They're interested in their iPhone and selfies and games and pictures and Facebook. And
now, John Anthony is the one who disparaged the millennials, not me. I'd like to just point that out. So when all the hate mail comes in, because it's usually coming my way, because I'm disparaging people who like wrestling, then John was the one who disparaged all the millennials.
Yeah,
not me. So send it to him.
Yes, please do. There's just tell me you hate me. I stink. I hear it all the time. I'd love to hear it more. But I hate your thumbs.
Oh, that's not true. I've never heard anyone say that.
No, I know. That's the only thing they like. They think they think I have nice hands.
The George Costanza hand model.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm good for. But yeah, man,
like it.
It's frustrating because this was like my favorite thing to do besides playing sports as a kid. I made some of my best friends buying and selling cards, and I've met a lot of really good friends on these Facebook groups. And I'll say there's probably, God, I don't even think I can say that I know 5 guys that actually collect modern cards that buy their team, and when they get their hits from that team, that they don't sell them.
Oh, come on, man. I do that.
Well, I don't. I said when they I'm talking about the breaks.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So I don't know if I know 5. I mean, and guess what? Even guys that don't get in breaks, you may be one of those 5. You, Edwin, our White Sox collector that we all know. I just won't use names on here. Who else? Can you name 2 others? Rack your brain. See, for you to have to sit there and you're in deep thought right now, that's not good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, man. You're not wrong. I mean, I do think that people have this, generally speaking, I feel like you're saying the right thing, which is people are just buying and then they're selling to buy more.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily think that's bad.
Okay, well here's the problem. When you're buying just to resell, that means you're buying to make money. You're buying to try to make money. Otherwise, you would keep it because it's something that you're interested in or you're chasing after.
Right.
You know? You wouldn't want to resell it. You wouldn't tell me to go F myself because you just lost money on the last 7 breaks because you kept buying your favorite team. If it was your favorite team, you wouldn't mind. You know, you have a team set, you've got a couple of autographs, you know, whatever.
Well, then I think the question there becomes how do you market in such a way? Because I feel like with you, like doing the breaks, I think most people know that it's a gamble first and foremost. I can't imagine that too many folks have an expectation of making money. I mean, it's even like we talk about razzing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I do a ton of razzing. The only people that win are the dealers.
But if let me think about this for a second. If people didn't care about the value,
right.
Okay, like back in the day, like think about it, Edwin. I mean, if you collected, you know, if Ripken wasn't the most expensive guy, like if you think back in the 90s, Ripken was in that second tier. The most expensive guys were Griffey, Frank Thomas,
Bonds,
and Greg Maddux. Those were the 4 most expensive guys, okay? If you pulled a Ken Griffey 94 Fleer Ultra hitting machine, that when it first came out, and I'll never forget it because I pulled one, it booked $120, okay? If you pulled that and I had the Ripken and the Ripken booked $80, you probably wouldn't bat an eye trading it to me because you got your Ripken and it's so hard to get. You didn't care about the value, am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you are. I mean, but you know, part of me says, is that kind of the innocence of being, you know, a kid trading, or is that, you know, part of where the hobby has gone as well?
Well, I'll say this. I'll bet there's a lot of guys that do vintage stuff that if a guy's filling a 65 set and he knows, you know, or you know, if Brian's filling a 65 set and I have a bunch of extras, Brian, here you go. I know you probably need these.
Right.
They might not be the condition that you want, you know, but keep your eyes out because I'm filling a 67 set. Yeah. Brian might come across a bunch of 67 and say, John, listen, thanks so much for helping me with my 65 set. Here's a bunch of 67s. Don't worry about it. So I'll bet that happens in the vintage world. But in the modern world, nobody's doing that. I saw Facebook.
Dude, I don't know, man. Because Edwin, you can get with me here because we deal so much on Facebook, and you know the show's called Sultans of Swap. I make not as many trades as I used to, but I bet you I sound like a jerk. I bet you I made 1,000 trades, and a lot of those trades, dude, we didn't even talk about value.
Yeah, I got 10 modern cards sitting here on my desk right here that are going to somebody that I know PCs this person.
Yeah.
No questions asked. I'm just going to drop it in the mail. Boom. It's going to show up on their doorstep.
I think that happens.
I'm not saying, dude, that is the exception. I don't think that is the rule. Mm-hmm. But I will say that I've made, of those 1,000, probably 100 trades. So like 10% of trades where we never actually talked about value. And sometimes I made money, And sometimes I remember, dude, I made this trade about 3 months ago with a guy. I had an Ernie Banks and a Koufax he wanted. I bet you he traded me like $500 worth of cards to get those two, and I like was messaging him. I'm like, dude, I can't like do this because I'm like plus $400 on you, and he was like, yeah, just send me whatever you want. So I had to like send him like 2 Mickey Mantles just to like, and it still wasn't close. Like I was still $150 ahead of him after that trade. But the guy genuinely just really wanted those cards and was happy to trade with me. And still to this day, man, I remember that dude like, oh my God, man, like he's crazy. And I've paid that forward on trades because I've kept that in mind, like in my head, like, holy crap, man, like what am I doing? $10? Who cares? Like if I'm getting $10 shorted or $20 shorted, whatever, and made the trade. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I think your assessment is pretty close to accurate. I just personally have done it so much that maybe I have a little different perspective on that one.
Well, if you lived in a town and there were about 60 guys that all had that mentality, your LCS would do great because nobody would care what the eBay prices are. They would look at the book or whatever, or they wouldn't find the one auction that sold for 60% less than the last 4 sales and haggle with you about it. Or I just think that an LCS is a losing game, man. I mean, there's giant retailers closing down that sell household items.
Right.
These are pieces of cardboard that are supposed to be fun and enjoyable, yet they've become a commodity.
Yeah, but to be fair, man, I mean, you've achieved a certain level of success, doing this. So I think what folks would be interested to know is, like, what do you feel has been, like, the key to your success?
Personality, man. I have a pretty good personality. I try to make it fun. I laugh. I joke. People have nicknames. They've gotten to know me. They've gotten to know Jess. It's become like logging into the Facebook group to break each other's balls has become a part of a lot of people's day over the last 9 or 10 months, man. It's a place where, think about how many people log on and just watch the break just for the laughs. You know what I mean?
No, I'll agree with you there. I think your genuine excitement to pull cards is helpful, but dude, come on, there's a lot more to it than that.
Other than me what do I do different other than, I'm honest, I send everything, nobody ever has any problems, nobody's never not gotten a package, and I do the same thing everybody else does, or that should do,
Right.
I just try to make it a little bit more personable and fun and exciting. That's it. It's not.
I guess I'm just so headstrong, like, in my mind. I want to make this thing happen. But the more I talk to people, like, in the know, like you and other guys that own stores, they just seem. It's like the guy at the poker table who has a big stack of chips in front of him, but he's still angry that he had to sit there for 14 hours grinding away, playing ace king and pocket eights and just playing the nuts. And he's just all bitter that, he sees the guy next to him who's just, the money's flying and he's getting lucky, hitting river flushes. And, he's made his living playing poker, but he's, like, angry that he had to grind away at it. And, there are other people that just, they come in frivolously and just, get lucky.
Well, I think John brought up a good point, though. I mean, the commodity here, the key to success is the personality, is the human factor of it. Creating that type of place that people want to go to hang out, to shoot the shit, to just BS, to where they want to, like, what, let's go hang out at the card shop this weekend. Let's go down there and see what they got new. Let's that creating that type of environment that draws people back is what you have to be able to do to be successful in a brick and mortar type of place.
I can't tell you how many people that have become super regular in our breaks that have been out of cards for a really long time. They wanted to check out what these breaks are, and they've just had so much fun that they've stayed, and they really enjoy it now. Right. And they're staying for the fun, man, for the experience, for the relationships, for the people that they get to talk to, for the fact that, some guys, Brian, I'm telling you, there's guys that will get hits that they know somebody else collects, and they tell me to put it in that guy's package. Like, and it's really cool, and that's what helps keep stuff going. And that's the kind of community that you need to really make the hobby a hobby again. And that's what it should be. It should be a hobby. Everyone shouldn't feel the need to have to make money.
Yeah. I am on board with that mentality pretty much 100%. What I would say for me personally is that the financial aspect of it is kind of what got me into it. Meaning that even when I was a kid, man, I loved watching those arrows go up and down for no reason, but
right.
They would go up and down in Beckett. Like what was hot, what wasn't. And, so you would open up packs and try and get those players. And that I don't think that has changed so much. I think there is a certain fascination with the financial side that still is attractive for some people. But I think that's also where a lot of the bitterness comes from.
Sure.
Is, anytime money is involved in anything, you can almost be assured that someone's feelings are going to get hurt somewhere along the line.
It's like gambling. Somebody's got to lose, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, someone has to lose. It's like those daily fantasy leagues, Who makes money on those? Come on. Like, 2% of people actually make money on daily fantasy. 90% of the people lose money. I don't know that this particular hobby is that dramatic. I know I gave my little poker metaphor earlier, but that's because I played a lot of poker, man, and it was the same way. Like, I would go, and people liked hanging out. They liked talking. They liked shooting the breeze, whatever. But there was only 3 of us that ever actually made money. The other 20 people that were just kind of giving us our rent money. And, it was still fun, but what happened? Over time, guys would drop out. My wife's busting my balls because I'm losing $100, $200 every weekend. Guys, I can't beat you guys, so whatever. And over time, what happened? The poker game died. Like, our weekly poker game died off because then it just became, 3 of us and people that were addicted who just wanted to give us money, and that was it. And I hope that is not how our hobby is. I hope that it's not just gambling. I hope there are still people that like the camaraderie, they like the trading aspect of it, all those different kind of things. Because, man, if it turns into that weekly poker game, there's going to be a fist fight. There's probably already been a few at a card show here and there, but
well, you say if like it hasn't already happened. Yeah. How many modern Raz rooms have we seen disappear?
Yeah, that's fair.
So these were my favorite. IPC team ABC. Line XYZ from that team. Okay, somebody lines a card, that guy wins it. And you'll get the notification that the item was delivered. As the person is walking back from their mailbox, they have the picture of the card. And you can tell that they're still walking because you see their sneaker in the background of the picture, that they're walking back from the mailbox. So you see the card and a picture of their shoelace as it's being posted in the same group. $5 cheaper than what I won it at. Wait a minute, right. I thought you PC this team and this player. Yeah, but the rent money's due. Haven't had any food in the refrigerator for 3 weeks. Desperately need to pay my car bill.
I'll tell you what, guys. We're gonna post this episode no matter what. I think it's got a lot of.
Wait, you aren't gonna post this?
No, we will post it. I'm just saying. I think it's so negative, man. I hate having that negative view. I mean, look, it's direct. Nothing that you or Edwin or I said is untrue.
You told me to be honest.
Oh no, I want you to be honest. I just think it's so negative. It hurts me, dude. I want to be positive.
Well, let's talk about
something positive.
I hit a Dan Marino on-card auto numbered to 10 about an hour ago. That's positive.
Do you think? Now, here's the thing. It'll be Raz, right?
The person that won that card, I don't know. They're newer, and I don't know what they collect, but I have a funny feeling that it will not be Raz.
No, I like that, man, because we all know plenty of guys who we get disappointed when they win because we know we'll never see it again.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's how I get with Clemente, man. When there's certain guys, when they win, I'm upset. Because I know I'm not going to freaking see it again.
Yeah, and you'll see the 3 inches of dust on the card because it's been buried in one of their boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're.
I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, so I'm sorry if I hurt
dude,
anybody's feelings.
Debbie Downer. I'm gonna go. I need Tom Brady to score like 40 points to win my fantasy playoff game.
Listen, go in the hot tub, lay down, put some bubbles or bath salts in there, have a drink, and you'll feel better.
I'm gonna have to do that, man. So, anyway, guys, I think that's gonna be it for us tonight. Check us out, Twitter, YouTube. Edwin's going to set up a Pinterest account. Is that right?
Brian's firing me, so this will
Instagram.
be the last episode you see me on. I'll be at the tackle store returning my fishing equipment.
Dude, the tackle one, I'm going to take that and use it somewhere along the line. I'm not sure how, but it will be made into a meme, I can assure you. All right, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.